Hi everyone, welcome to the OneCodeCamp channel. So in today's video, we are diving deep into the world of EJS Linter Errors. So we'll dive into the nitty-gritty details and ensure that your EJS code is error-free, and then we'll write a cleaner and more efficient EJS code. So let's go and unravel the intricacies of EJS Linter Errors. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, this is Ian again from OneCodeCamp channel. So for this second video of our EJS series, we're going to define what are linters and what linter errors are we most likely to encounter if you're going to use the EJS template. And of course, we're going to identify points to follow so we can address these errors. Let's go. Now, before we proceed in learning what are the examples of EJS linter errors, we will need to first define what is linter. So if it's your first time hearing about linter, it's actually our tools that helps us analyze our code for any potential errors. It's actually not specific to EJS alone, but will help you with any programming language that you're using for building your project. So in here, we have on the screen ESLint. It's one of the most popular linter that we can use along with our code base. But for our tutorial for this video, we're not going to use any third-party technology at all, since linter errors for EJS are quite easy to fix. Now, when we work again with EJS templates, we will encounter various linter errors, or sometimes just warnings that are specific to EJS syntax and usage. What that means is that these errors that we will encounter along the way, most of the time just have something to do with stylistic issues. Maybe we put in too much white spaces, maybe there's something wrong with the indentation, or sometimes it also might be because we fail to adhere to a certain coding standard. Also, typographical error is the #1 cause of linter errors for EJS. It's maybe sometimes we forgot a symbol, might have replaced it with something else, or we might have just added extra characters somewhere along our code that's not supposed to be there in the first place. So those are the things that we will need to be careful about, and I'll help you have it identified before it ruins our entire code base. So let's get started. All right, so let's go ahead and start into coding. Let's close our browser, and back here in our Visual Studio Code, we already have a project directory available. Now, these files are from the previous video. If you're there, we were able to create a simple to-do list app to give you an idea or a quick glimpse of how to use EJS templates. So now, inside our project directory is the server, which is the app.js file. Then we're also was able to create another template, or a single template we name index.ejs, which is located inside a folder, our views folder. And we actually was able to get rid of everything inside the body tag, so we can start in a clean state. I did the same for the server file. We remove every unnecessary line of codes in here already as well. So here, back to the index.ejs. The first linter errors that we would like to discuss is the unterminated EJS Delimiters. So let me put that up here. Let's do that as a comment. Unterminated EJS Delimiters. So unterminated EJS Delimiters is, you guess it, we were just not able to close the EJS tag. As simple as that. Now, to demonstrate an example, imagine we're trying to create an EJS line enclosed in a p tag, and then inside it, we always start our EJS delimiters with an angle bracket, followed by a %sign. And then we also have here tags. In this particular line of code, we would like to preview or include a username into our HTML file. But then, when we are about to close this line of code, we did this. So as you can see, it will throw an error if you are going to run the server. And you know what? Let's try to make this screen a bit bigger so you guys can see better. All right, there you go. So as you can see, the line of code, or the part of code in here that will give us an error, is this part. With terminating, or with properly closing an EJS line of code with this EJS tag. It's unnecessary for us any symbol in here for that matter. So if we are executing this line, we only should put in, we just do it in here correctly so we can have a clear comparison of what to do and what not to do. All right, so this will give you the error while this will not occur any problem at all. So again, this is called an Unterminated EJS Delimiters. Now, since we are already on the topic of EJS tags, EJS tags, by the way, is aside from these, opening up your EJS line with these and closing it with these, they actually comes in a variety of other EJS tags. We normally use them for embedding and evaluating different JavaScript expressions, and then we somehow like output the result into this template that we are working on. So just for us to have a better understanding of why this will include an error, let's go ahead and I'll show you those different tags as well. So the first one is the one you already saw. We call this one, let's say we have here an expression in the middle, any JavaScript expression, and then we're closing it like this. So we call this one an output tag. I think it would be better if we also have that commented. So let's put in here output. All right, so with output tag, it evaluates the JavaScript expression inside, and then it inserts the result into the HTML, to the rest of the code in here. Like for example, for our example, we have here the username expression. Whatever the value of this username will be included in the HTML file when it renders. That means that on the actual web page, the username in here, its value will also be visually available on the web page that this file is going to render. Now for the next tag, so that's for the output tag. The next one is, actually we call it an escape output tag. So what that looks like is an angle bracket. Well, all of our EJS tags start with an angle bracket, and then we have here again any JavaScript expression, and then we close it like this. All right. Now for these and escape output, it also evaluates the expression just like the output tag up here, but it does not escape the HTML characters in the result or when it rendered. This is useful when you want to insert raw HTML or just user-generated content. But one thing that we will need to watch out for whenever we use the unescape output tag is that it might be like it might be a problem when it comes to security, because there are risks that since this is a user-generated content, it might not be that safe at all to include it in our code base. Now for the next tag, we have this line of code. So it's just an angle bracket, and then we have here a line of code, and then percent tag, and then an angle bracket. As simple as that, without any extra symbol inside. So this is what we call a scriptlet tag. Scriptlet tag. All right, so for a scriptlet tag, it will allow you to embed JavaScript code into your HTML template without producing any output. Like for example, we just want to include in here a for loop or maybe a conditional statement. It would allow you to execute those those line of code, but it will not be inserting anything, or it will not be adding anything into our output. It's just there to do some certain rules or some certain functionalities that we would like to be added in our project. For the next tag, we have, now we will be using the underscore symbol. So we have here the underscore symbol after the angle bracket and the percent sign, and then any code that comes inside, and then we're closing it with a percent symbol and an angle bracket. Now, this is what we call, let me put that up here, we call it a white space slurping tag. That's a funny name for a tag, don't you think? Now for the white space slurping tag, it will remove all the white space and all the unnecessary line breaks that comes before this line. So this can be very useful for cleaning up the code, or for like when we want to automatically run a quick format, especially when we concatenate strings, which sometimes projects, or we can see that there are multiple spaces that's unnecessary with that concatenated line of strings that we would like to be shown on our web page. Now we have yet another one. So for this one, we are using a number sign, and then in here, and then this tag, this is actually our comments tag. So let me just put it here, comments tag. So for the comments tag, as you can see, anything inside these tags is treated as a comment and is not included in our output. So it's like how we do comments on EJS templates. And for the last tag, we have, so first angle bracket, %sign, and then this is the actual line, or the actual thing that we will need to put in here for this tag to work. And we call it an include file name tag. Include file name tag. Now, this tag, it will allow you to include another EJS file within this template that you're working on. We can use this to break your templates into smaller, reusable pieces. Like, for example, if this particular HTML or EJS template file is running too long, you can actually break it into smaller pieces and have them triggered or call them up using these EJS tag in here. This file name tag that we have included it down here. Aside from all of these ones that we mentioned, we actually have some other custom tags in EJS. What we need to remember is that you can define your own custom tags using the syntax. This syntax actually %sign and then the dash. Like, for example, you could create a custom tag to render a specific component, or if you want to add a widget in your application, you are definitely feel free to do so. Now, I would also want you to remember that all of these EJS tags provide flexibility and, of course, control over how you want your embed JavaScript within the templates to be executed. And then, of course, it allows us to mix static and dynamic content in an short and timely manner. It will save you a lot of time, or since you will not need to think of the logic of how you're going to execute it into longer lines of code. All right, so since we were able to go through quickly with the different EJS tags, let's go back to our EJS Linter Errors. So for the next one, maybe let's have this tags indented. Okay. All right. So for our next EJS Linter Errors, we have unused variables. Unused variables. There. Now, if you pass a variable to an EJS template, but you don't use it, some linters might warn you about the unused variable. Like, for example, in here, maybe back to our server, inside here on our app.get, where we set the view or the page for our index.ejs file, let's put in here, for example, username variable, and then let's assign it a value of John. Let's make that uppercase J. All right. And then back here to our EJS template, we did something like another p tag, and then we started with, you want to say welcome, and then we're trying to use that username in here. Username. Now this is going to result to the unused variable linter error. You might see a warning that says username is being unused, or this variable has not been used at all. Now, the reason why a linter might produce that error is because the username variable in this EJS template it doesn't have, or the linter that that will be producing the error doesn't have complete knowledge of the runtime context in which the template will be used. Like, we will need to understand that linters analyze code base on a static analysis of the code base itself. They do not execute the code, or it doesn't understand as well how it will be used dynamically at every runtime. So in our server code, we are passing a username variable to the EJS template using rest.render. However, the linter again doesn't have the visibility into the server-side rendering process, and it would not detect that, and that will what will cause it to produce us or show us the error. Now, what we can do about this is, or how we go about this, is that we can use the common practice of prefixing a variable name with an underscore before it. Like here in our example, we can add an underscore before the variable username to indicate that they are intentionally not being used in our template. This way, the linter will not produce any warnings for the variable being not used at all. And also by prefixing our variable, we are trying to tell linters that this variable is intentionally, again, not being used in the template, and it should not prevent the unused variable linter error, but it will still allow you to pass the data to the template when rendering it, or when the index.ejs file has been rendered. Next is the unscape HTML content. Escape HTML content. Now for unscape HTML content, linters might warn you if you're trying to render a user-generated content without escaping it, or without trying to use the proper EJS tag. So if we are going to back to these tags that we should use according to what we wanted to use, or what function would you like to use for the template, for unscaping an HTML or an EJS line, we should be using this unscape output tag. So for as an example, like say for example, we are again trying to produce an EJS line enclosed in a p tag, and then we would like to, of course, show a user's bio, or like anything about the user on the web page. Like for example, if we're creating a social media site. So this is the proper way of doing it, since we would like to use the escape or the output tag, since we definitely want this information to be present or to be visually available on the website. And then for unscape tag, for example, we're using a div tag, and then we're kind of wanted to write this code raw. Like for example, we have a raw HTML content. So these type of files in here, obviously we don't want it to be rendered along with everything in our HTML file. So that's the reason why we are using the unscape tag instead of the output tag. Now next would be, let's put it down here. Next linter error that we might come across is the mixing EJS and HTML tags. And this will happen a lot if you're building a really huge code base, or if it's a really big project. Of course, we tend to mix things up, right? So linters might complain if you mix EJS and HTML tags, of course, in an unclear or confusing way. So for example, we're trying to again write in or include the username, and we did it this way. User.name. We just code all of them with no spaces. You might think that this is such a small detail and should be detected automatically that it's the same as here. But like what we've discussed before, EJS is very sensitive with small details like these, with like spacing, with white spaces, and proper indentation. So this might result into another linter error. So the correct way on how we go about this is to, of course, as like what we've shown from up there, but I'll be pasting it down here for quick reference. So again, it should include proper spaces in between, because this might cause confusion that it might be an HTML line instead of an EJS line. In relation to the linter error mixing EJS and HTML tags, we also have another one that we call consistent whitespace usage. So, just like the mixing EJS and HTML tags, this linter error, consistent whitespace usage, talks about the proper use of whitespaces. It's like what the examples looks like above in here. So linters might warn us about inconsistent usage of whitespace, especially when we mix EJS code and the HTML content. So to demonstrate as an example, maybe we can use this up here. So first, we're trying to do the username on the web page. So this is their first code. And then after that, we type in another EJS line of code. Let's say this is for a user email this time, but we put in another space in here. So that makes it different from this one, which only have one space in between. Or another example would be, so aside from email, maybe we can put in here user birthday. So maybe this time we added an extra space in here before the variable user birthday. So any of these or any of these lines of code that we wrote will throw us an EJS linter error about consistent white space usage, or any combination of it might be just a single mistake like this or combination of both. So it's really important to remember that all of these errors that we talk about doesn't have anything to do with really the logic of how we use the EJS template, but more into mindful coding and mindful reminding ourselves of the things that we will need to look out for us to avoid being interrupted with these types of linter errors. It is important that we configure our linter tools, such as ESLint, the one that we showed earlier, to of course support our EJS templating language, and for any other language for that matter. Actually, we can actually adjust these linters to the rules that match your coding style. There's a way that you can customize the settings of those linters so it can suppress certain warnings or errors using linter specific comments when you very sure that the code is correct and this is how you really want it to look like. But of course, we wanted to avoid the linter being not able to recognize it correctly. That's the time that you might want to get into the part wherein you can add in manually or add in specific rules to the linter tools. Also, it's a good tip to remember that linting rules can really vary based on the linter, the specific linter technology that you are using, and as well as with your project coding standards. It might be, again, your personal preferences, or might be documentation for the linter that you will be using for accurate information, and on any EJS related linting rules and configurations, of course, since we are talking about EJS template. So that's about it for the EJS linter errors that we will encounter along the way while we are building our project using this templating language. So good luck, and please let us know if you did encounter any of these ones, what you did to address them in the comment box. I hope to see you on our next video.